Deacon Brody is quite famous. One, as a lawyer. Two, he worked in the Edinburgh Congress. And three, he was a thief. So by day, he worked on cabinets, he represented Edinburgh in the court of law, and at night, he stole everyone's shit. It's a quite frank way of saying it.
Pockets, everyone.
Brody was actually friends with Robert Burns. He met with Robert Burns, chatted with Robert Burns, he dined with Robert Burns. And all the while, he was going around Edinburgh, stealing everyone's money with the same habits.
Well.
So, one of the reasons why people want to still nowadays, he was hung, of course he was. He is the inspiration of Robert Louis Stevenson's Jekyll and Hyde.
Wow.
Does anyone know what Jekyll and Hyde is? If anyone knows the story, so there's Dr. Jekyll, he drinks a potion, he becomes Mr. Hyde. So Deacon Brody was considered a lovely man, and then at night he became Mr. Hyde. So a little bit closer. So I know we're outside St Giles. We're not actually here for St Giles, even though ironically John Knox is somewhere buried in a car park just down here, and he was Mary Queen of Scots' biggest enemy, as I mentioned at the beginning of the tour. The reason we're here is because of the Royal Mile itself. And besides the final story where we're going to meet, Mary King's Close, the hauntiest of us, I'm going to tell you a little bit of the story. Part of it is myth, part of it is history. Not everyone can agree with this story, but essentially, if you bring your mind back to the English Civil War, so on the throne is Charles I, and he's up against Oliver Cromwell. So that's a bit of a history. Our civil war is happening, and Scotland was very much for Charles I. They believed in a monarchy. He was Catholic, but you know, a monarchy is a monarchy. You're gonna have to agree to it. One day, so because of the tension and the paranoia, there's all this fear of spies. And it's not like the spies that they have today where you can use technology. Spies were ridiculous. They climbed buildings. They went through sewer pipes. They went through everything. They even attacked kings through the toilets. In one infamous case, a Viking king was killed with a knife to the bottom. So the paranoia of spies was very, very big. And one day in Edinburgh Castle, they discovered a corridor. And the corridor ended up onto the Royal Mile. This was all underground, it wasn't a sewer, they just discovered it. And so Edinburgh Castle's officials began to panic. Oh shit, there's a vault, there must be spies. Now this vault was very, very small. In fact, so small that only a child could get through it. And so, I guess because he was in the army, they picked a drummer boy. He was this height. And he was 15 years old. This is how small 15-year-olds were back in the day, because of malnutrition, amongst other things. And they said to him, we want you to go through the vaults, and we want you to bang your drum so we can hear exactly where you go. So this little drummer boy did as he was told. He banged his drum, he walked through this very dark vault. It stopped right there. The drumming stopped right here. And he never reappeared. Until it is said that his ghost appeared headless inside Edinburgh Castle with his drumming, saying that he missed his mother. There was no head, but apparently he was talking. Don't know how that worked. I don't know how that worked. And the very next day, Oliver Cromwell actually attacked Edinburgh Castle. So it is said that when this ghost appears, Edinburgh Castle is in danger. So this is a myth, it's a bit of history.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stories where the vaults are elsewhere and stuff, which is very confusing. But I just thought I'd say it because it freaks people out. And hey, it's a ghost tour, that's what you do.
Little drummer boy, Christmas song. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Random Tom. The fact he's headless as well probably means he died quite painfully.
Thank you, Emma, for that one.
So this is the bit where Gavin was supposed to take over from me. Unfortunately, he was unable to come today, so he's given me some notes. But Mary King's Close, very famous museum because it's haunted. Does anyone know anything about Mary King's Close before we start? Besides the fact it's inaccessible. So Mary King's Close, if you think about nowadays, poor people are put in slums back in the day, and you could argue that council flats and whatever are today's slums. If you were very, very poor, you ended up underground in Edinburgh. And it didn't matter if the slums or whatever, if you were poor, you ended up in Mary King's Close, in the vaults. Mary King's Close is not the original name. It was actually called Alexander King's Close. But then they changed it to his wife's name, Mary King's Close. And they changed it around the 16th century. And it's very famous because, well, it's haunted. It's haunted by everything from children to serial killers to women, prostitutes, to everything. Because people died there and nobody claimed their bodies. And there's lots and lots of documentaries of people going into the vaults, leaving teddy bears for children. They left a camera there, and you see the teddy bear spin around with nobody touching it. So there's lots of YouTube videos that shows you how it's haunted. In fact, as some of you may know, I'm an actor. There's a theatre company in Edinburgh called Gridiron, and their quip, so to speak, is to do theatre in places that are not theatres. They did a show here many, many years ago, and one day, so they were waiting for a scene to start, and the prop, which was a bunch of keys, was put on the table, ready for the actor, and the actor comes in, the keys were missing. Nobody moved the keys. And then once that scene was done, they had to do it without the keys. The stage manager came back to find the keys, and it was right there on the table, as if it hadn't been moved at all. So at this point, I'm going to read a couple of notes that Gavin sent me, because as I explained, this was created. This whole tour was created by the three of us, me, Shaun, and Gavin. Shaun has been filming this event for me as best I can. Partly because, one, as ambassador, I want to create events that are exciting to you all, maybe a bit short as it is, but also to showcase to other people who weren't able to come to the events. So this is what Gavin says about Mary King's Close. So born in Edinburgh in the 16th century, Mary married a man called Thomas Nimmo in 1616, and Mary kept her surname Kin from Alexander Kin, so she was married to Alexander Kin before she remarried. They had 4 children called Euphine, Joan, Alexander and William, so 2 very weird names already. So quite a unique thing happened at the time. She was left to raise her 4 kids, and she was a very successful businessman in the early 1600s. So immediately she was like, yep, I'm successful. And she became something of a lawyer. Even though she never claimed the title, she worked as a lawyer for poor people. And as a gratitude, they renamed Alexander King's to Mary King's Close. So her clients, I guess, were the very people that were trapped in the vaults. And unfortunately, after she died, the vaults continued to still be in effect until the early 1800s, when it was closed before its rediscovery in the late 1900s. And then it became a new museum. And then it became famous for being haunted and stuff. So it is unfortunately inaccessible. You do have to pay to get in. But if this is something you guys want to do, maybe outside of get-together, I would recommend coming to this place as a museum, as a must. Not so much for Halloween, but you know, it's a very historic thing in Edinburgh, and Edinburgh is known as a very rich, very, you know, it's the city of rich people and stuff. But so many people suffered, and it's something we can't forget. The women in the witch trials, the women that were sentenced to death for being women, to the poor people suffering from being poor. And ironically, Tory government, the poor suffering from being poor. So all these links lead up to the present day, and it's something that we need to reconsider and think, oh wait, you know, things aren't so bad anymore, but things could still be better. That is the end of the tour. I know some of you arrived just as I was starting the first story. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the museum myself. If you want to follow me there, that's fine, but you are free to leave. But I'm also here if you want to talk, ask me any questions about the stories I've told you today, because I'm technically here until 4 p.m. with Rosie. So if you guys have any questions about anything, just let me know now. Or if you want chocolate, now.